Can we start to put Jam Jam into a historical context, Zach?
Yeah, we definitely can. The way I like to do it, because it's like there's 44 of them now,
Yes.
is I just try to like look at where I generally have people pre-existing, and I'm like, which winner is Jam Jam most similar to, or his
Great.
game, and then I'm able to like put him
Mm-hmm.
into a spot.
Yes, I love it.
So with Jam Jam, there's this thing that you talked about. I listened to you with Steven a few days ago,
Yes.
about how there are the winners that like you just talk to and you instantly understand like this is why they won. Like I'm pulled in by them. I
Mm-hmm.
like feel like I'm their best friend and I just met them.
Have you had that experience with any survivors that you've met?
I've had that experience with
Mm-hmm.
Jam Jam.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And
he
it's
has
cool
that.
when it happens, right?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
has that just magnetic, friendly, like able to relate to you on whatever level. Um I love Jam Jam. I think that he does. So that social game, I do think we saw it on the screen. I've seen it in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Top notch. Like can't be
Yeah.
better.
I get that from him as well when I met him.
Mm-hmm. He's just so friendly and fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jam Jam.
Yeah. He's great.
Uh,
So is there
and now he
somebody
has money.
now he has money that also helps? Right.
Mhm. So social game top tier. I can't imagine like better.
Mm-hmm.
Strategic game was obviously great.
Yeah.
Like I think the only critiques you could make of Jam Jam's strategic game in my mind are one, if you want to give more credit to Carson and do
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like a JT Steven thing where you're like, well, Jam Jam couldn't have done all this. And two, I do think that the whole targeting Carolyn ended up like kind of proving itself to like not have been a really great strategy
It was
at
not
the end of the
good.
game.
I asked him about that in the exit interview, and he was actually very worried about Carolyn in the final tribal council. That I don't know if you heard any of that interview, but he was very worried about Carolyn having a great final tribal council performance and the jury giving it to her.
Mhm.
And he felt like that she did not rise to the occasion in the final tribal council.
Yeah, and I think that's very fair because I think that that's what we all saw
Hmm.
within the game. It's like Carolyn. I think Jam Jam had a front row seat to Carolyn's strategy in a way that the rest of the jury didn't.
Yeah.
And that's where he was like kind of overestimating her in terms of her threat level. But it still seems like an incorrect read and could have really screwed things up at the end.
Yes. Had
Um,
he taken out Carolyn at the final six, would he have still gotten to the end?
it all comes down to Heidi.
Yeah.
Is Heidi closer with Jam Jam and Carson, or is Heidi closer with the other two girls, Jamie
Hmm.
and Lauren? And it seems just like based on what we saw the game play through that Heidi was closer with the Tikas. And that I think that Jam Jam did have her. So I think he could have still been okay.
Yeah. Heidi said that her and Jam Jam had like an understanding or a bond, but not one that was like that, that they were like wanted to let people know about.
Yeah.
And it really does seem like that when we saw that Jamie and Lauren voted against Heidi at the final seven, like
Yeah.
that was like, that relationship was not a good one.
I think that's what we call a since when moment
Mhm.
with Jam Jam and Heidi. And I feel bad for Heidi because that would have, I think, illuminated a lot more of her game because there was a lot of the season where I was just like, why is Heidi still going with the Tikas? Why is she not making a move? And yeah, it's just because they didn't really show that relationship. It's
Mhm.
very Jesse and Carla, I feel like, where they just instantly were like, oh yeah, me and Carla are like ride or dies. It's like, what?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So
So, all
yeah,
right. So with all that in mind, okay, so we think that targeting Carolyn might have been a mistake, but
yeah.
off the chart social game. Then who could we map Jam Jam to in terms of like a section of the winner rankings that we would put him in?
I'm leaning towards I don't know where this would be ranked, but I'm leaning towards wherever you put JT feels like a pretty good comparison of the social game is like the
Mhm.
weapon, the
Yeah.
main thing, at least first season JT. The
First season JT.
strategic game, clearly very good to the point where he was able to, with a trio, um, run the entire game from merge on. And the biggest point of criticism comes to how much credit do you give to his quirky little nerd?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really interesting. I would not have made that comparison, Jam Jam and JT, but I do like it.
I also think that it's the personality. It's completely different personalities, but it's that personality that just makes people not worried about them as a strategic threat. Like Jam
Yeah.
Jam is such a character. You look at him, you instantly know, like, oh, this is why Jam Jam was cast, because he's funny, he's loud, he's over the top, like he's such a presence in the tribe.
Yeah.
Look at JT, he's the sweet Southern guy.
Yeah.
He couldn't lie to you.
And so that we went on to see JT without Steven, and there was nobody there to like talk him out of some like kind of bad ideas on
Yes.
Survivor. And that we might say that could have been the case with Jam Jam. Of if Carson is not there, nobody's there to say like no, let's not vote out Carolyn at the final six. And the one time that Jam Jam really got the wool pulled over his eyes in this game happened to be when Carson was sent to Ratu, and it was Jam Jam working closely with Sarah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where he lost Carolyn for that vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest with that one though, I don't even like totally count it, because like Josh just had an idol that he could only play then. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't even mark that as like a mark against Jam Jam's game necessarily, because there was no room to play with how the producers had set that up.
There was no room to play, but like it could have like gone where like okay, that Carolyn had that information, and if Carson is there, that there was maybe potentially ways that they could have said, okay, well, let's just figure it out, what way to either get it on Sarah, or like Jam Jam was blindsided and had to play his way back in after that vote.
That's true.
Yeah. So all right, I like that. Interesting.